See you.
Very good to be here, George. Thank you.
Thanks for coming in. Let's start, if you don't mind, real quick with an explanation of the center and tell us what you're doing over there.
Well, the center is there to support real estate program at San Diego State. So we support a lot of the educational activities, offer special enrichment type of classes for students. We support research that our faculty do, and then we want to connect with the community, and we do that with several events we sponsor each year.
Very good. It's a great center backed by a great organization and a great family, no doubt about that.
Yes,
that's
thank
for
you.
sure. All right, we're coming off a year, and Michael, let's say the last 6 months of the year, every report it seemed we got out, whether it was from DataQuick, California Association, San Diego Association of Realtors, seemed to show that we were increasing a lot of sales activity, and finally prices were starting to tag along. Do you see that?
I still see that, George, but I think we have to be a little cautious about being overly optimistic here because there's still some strange attributes to this housing market. Mainly, we have such low inventory, and it's hard for particularly first-time buyers to get a property. That's being reflected in prices to some degree, and we still have this overhang of a lot of people with negative equity, and that's the reason you don't see a lot of inventory.
So if we get and we get some even modest tick up in prices, it'll allow a lot of people that are kind of locked into their house right now to perhaps reach that point where they could sell it, take a little money out, and make that move up?
Absolutely. And so we want to continue to see, and I think we will see, increases in prices, and that's going to unlock equity, and I think that's going to be very positive for the market going forward.
Let's talk about the home building industry in San Diego County, or I guess we should say the lack of a home building industry right now. What's going on? What are we going to see as far as creating an inventory of new homes for sale?
I think we're going to still see quite limited production, particularly of single-family houses. And part of that is just due to the lack of available land supply. We only have a few areas in San Diego that can support significant volume of traditional tract housing. So we're going to see more infill. Obviously, the bright spot is multifamily. We're going to see more apartments being built. A trend towards more density, more infill. Density
really is the key word, though, when you look at 13 and beyond, isn't it?
It very much is, and the question is, how is that going to be received by consumers? We have yet to see the results of that.
Yeah, and that is a tough nut when you think about it, because not only for the people that are looking for a place to live, but the communities around them that maybe have not had a lot of density, all of a sudden faced with that as a possibility in their own backyard.
Oh, absolutely. And the question is, what are we going to do with regard to transit and in particular road improvements that can really offset some of the negative aspects of increased car traffic in a lot of these neighborhoods.
Another question on the inventory thing, Michael, because I think it's really going to be an interesting road for us to cross here. When you look at, say, below the $400,000 mark for a home, we're looking at very, very low inventories, and the arrival and the very active role of the investor into the real estate market is having an impact there. Explain that.
Well, what you have is, as you say, a lot of investors coming in and snapping up that kind of inventory. A lot of that is going to be converted to rental. That eventually will come back into the owner-occupied space. We also have a lot of flipping going on, and that's does put the supply back on the market. But I think that the overall effect is that for people that are looking, particularly first-time buyers in that price range, it's just very difficult for them to compete because a lot of the investors are coming in with all cash offers, and even if you got financing all locked up, the seller wants the sure thing.
Yeah, the money in the hand typing, right?
Exactly.
Let's talk about distressed properties right now, either homes that are going into foreclosure or in foreclosure or short sales and things like that. Where's that stand right now?
Well, I think the trend has been very positive in that regard. We're seeing a significant reduction in the overall percentage of sales that are distressed. We're seeing a shift away from foreclosure to more short sales. I think that one positive aspect of the new tax accord is that it did extend the tax relief for people that are selling underwater properties for at least another year. That's a great point, because there was some concern that might not have made it through the process.
The other thing that made it through the process, it looks like, is that the deductibility of home mortgage interest is not going to be tampered with.
For the most part. I mean, if you're above, I think it's $400,000, you're going to see some limits on your overall itemized deductions. That's not going to have a significant impact on the market. So in that regard, the housing market, you know, kind of dodged one, if you will.
I talk to an awful lot of people. You've participated in roundtables. I do at the Daily Transcript and other things like that, Michael. I don't get a lot of sense of really excitement or unusual excitement about 2013 from a lot of professionals in the industry and people like yourself. They still remain pretty cautious about things for this year.
Yeah, I think that it's still a mixed bag. I think we, on the commercial side, are going to see a continued slow recovery, other than multifamily, which you mentioned before, which is the hot market. And for the reasons I said earlier, I mean, I think we're cautiously optimistic about the housing market. I'll point out that as long as interest rates remain low, this is still a great time to buy a house. And the real question is, where are the houses for sale?
Yeah,
and that's the big challenge going forward.
You're not a realtor per se, so talk a little bit about some advice you would give to people who are looking to buy a house right now and what kind of steps they should be making so that they can compete out there.
Well, first and foremost, you need to get pre-approved for a mortgage. You know, that takes away the uncertainty that, you know, people have in qualifying. And secondly, I think, you know, you're just going to really have to do a lot of research, both with your realtor as well as through a lot of the online services, and be quick. You know, when you see something you like, you know, don't you know, dither on this, but basically put your bid in and hope for the best.
Got to be agile, don't you?
That's right.
Michael, good to see you. Thanks for coming in. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, George, and thanks for inviting me.
Appreciate it. Glad to have you here. On Monday.